Hello students, good morning. We'll continue in this online lecture the poem we had started, that is Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard by Thomas Gray. In the previous lectures we had done till line 48, that is stanza number 12. We'll start with line 49, stanza number 13. But knowledge to their eyes, her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. Chill penury repressed their noble rage and froze the genial current of the soul. So in these lines we can see that the poet has again used personification in the first line, because as you can see the word knowledge is capitalized, and this the poet tries to convey as if knowledge is some person. So knowledge is mainly the subject of this sentence, and and now we'll try to understand what the poet is saying through this personification. So what is knowledge? Knowledge is something that has never unfolded her pages before these poor farmers or village folk. Knowledge to their eyes, her ample page, rich with the spoils of time, did never unroll. So knowledge has never unrolled. Ample means enough. So the knowledge has never unfolded her. What is knowledge? Which can be read through books, or what is there in this world, what is unfolded before our eyes in our day-to-day life. So he says that this knowledge, the person, maybe some person who is knowledge, has not given this privilege to these country folks, and their eyes have been deprived of the beautiful pages of knowledge. So it's as though knowledge is somewhat a collection of pages, and as time goes on those pages get filled with more and more information. That's what the speaker calls the spoils of time. Spoils means a sort of plunder, enough. But these poor countrymen in their graveyard have never got access to all the knowledge history had to offer, and that knowledge never came before their eyes. Because what is penury? Poverty. Because poverty has held back the noble parts of their characters, their beauty, their passion. So penury is also personified as if it is treated like a person. It's the thing that repressed and froze the dead people's potential. Because of poverty, they were not able to come forward and make their names in the life. There is another metaphor, as if the poet wants us to imagine that a person's soul is like a river, and poverty can freeze the current of the soul of river. So Gray is trying to portray the life of these poor farmers through personification and metaphor. Full many a gem of purest ray serene, the dark unfathomed caves of ocean bear. Full many a flower is born to blush unseen and waste its sweetness on the desert air. These are oft quoted lines from the poem. So here also full many is a sort of a phrase, an old phrase which means lot of. So, lots of beautiful pure gems are hidden in the dark caves of the ocean, and lots of flowers have come into bloom without a human to see and appreciate their beauty or their sweet scent. The poet tries to say that many things in this world are such which nobody ever sees, such as beautiful gems that are underneath in this earth, or the beautiful flowers that bloom somewhere where nobody goes or nobody ventures. So, in this stanza is about unsung heroes, like the people who are buried in this churchyard without any monuments or trophies on their name, and they are like gems and flowers because they cannot be recognized, their beautiful works cannot be recognized. So, gems and flowers are also like metaphor, which means that like these country folk, these poor countrymen were not able to come or shine before the world because, like the gems and flowers, they have been undiscovered. Some village Hampden that with dauntless breast the little tyrant of his field withstood, some mute inglorious Milton here may rest, some Cromwell guiltless of his country's blood. Now the speaker thinks that there might be among these dead people who are buried in this country churchyard who could have been some famous fighters, revolutionaries, or poets, but because now they are dead and unknown, and nobody has discovered what sort of people they were, they remain unknown. Maybe there was some village version of John Hampden who stood against the tyranny, and on the other side, John Hampden was a Puritan politician who had opposed the policies of King Charles I, and he is called dauntless and fearless by Gray. And he says that maybe there is someone there who is buried among these graves so brilliant as John Milton. You must have heard about John Milton, poet, and his biggest epic, that is Paradise Lost, but he died mute without any being able to express his brilliance. So he says that we can't say that among these poor people who are buried in these graves, someone may be like John Milton and they have died without being known, without being able to express their brilliance. Or maybe there may be someone who would have wreaked havoc like Cromwell, but who didn't have a chance to show. So Cromwell is also a historical fact about the English Civil War. So all these things are, the history is from the 16th, 17th century of England. So both Hampden and Milton were almost from the same area of England where Gray was writing his elegy. So maybe he imagined their names, or he is trying to show or give the impact of his words. The applause of listing senates to command, the threats of pain and ruin to despise, to scatter plenty over a smiling land, and read their history in a nation's eye, their lot forbade. So he says that we see that the this 16th stanza ends with a comma and not with a period. The sentence actually carries over, or its idea is carried over to the next stanza. The dead villagers' situation is like that they have been kept from receiving the applause and approval of politicians. Their situation also made it impossible for them to blow off threats of pain and ruin, nor could they spread good stuff. Means plenty means good stuff all over the country, even though that would have won them a place in the history books, in the eyes of their countrymen. So the poor villagers had died unknown because of their poverty or their penury, as the speaker has said in the earlier lines. So we continue with our poem in the next lecture. Thanks for now.